Previously on Balls.
Yes.
Megan speaking.
Hi there. We'd like to speak to Professor Dr. Tim Noakes, please.
Sure, one moment, please.
Thank you. Megan. I just wanted to cover all bases.
Professor Dr. Tim Noakes.
Professor Dr. Tim Noakes.
Yes, sir.
Covering all our bases there. How's it going, Prof? It's Darren and John and Simon and Kate.
Darren, very nice to hear from you.
Nice to chat to you again. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Prof. And, first of all, following very closely, as I think everyone, not only so many people in the country, but also around the world, the Oscar Pistorius trial, or the bail hearing. Let's just reiterate that. It's not a trial yet, it's a bail hearing. Have you been glued?
Yeah, I've been obviously very depressed and upset like everyone else in South
yes.
Africa. I think it was a real shock when it happened. And really disturbed about, don't know what the truth is when, one's getting so much conflicting information.
Yeah.
And difficult to come to any conclusions at this stage.
Well, we can't, because we don't know what the truth is. I mean, that's the bottom line. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. We don't. And it's just so easy to be influenced by media and social media now as well, which has entered the fray with comments and things that have come out that you've got to remember that a judge has got to decide based on the facts. And we don't know what the truth is yet.
Yeah, exactly. I've never heard so much nonsense come out, it seems to me, from the police side. I mean, the things were stated which don't seem to have held up, and I don't know who would have let this information out, because they were building a case against Oscar based on stuff which just seems to be hearsay or just not true. And so that was very, very strange that someone should have let all that information out or leaked it or whatever, and then. Why would that information come out? Who's he trying to influence?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's people in inner circles, and I said the other day, it's the old theory about, okay, listen, I'll tell you, but don't tell anybody else. Everybody's human, and I think everyone suffers from the same thing. As soon as you say that, someone says, "No, I promise I won't," and then the next person they see, they tell them the same thing. It doesn't matter who you are. So it's that kind of mentality. Yesterday, this morning, I was very interested because some people were putting it out on Twitter, and Paddy Upton wrote an article, a lengthy one as well. We won't go into the whole one. I think we'll try and sort of summarize it and someone tweeted saying, you're talking about, we mentioned psychopath, and I mean, that is the word that was used in the article, and basically talking about certain high-profile, not only sports people and celebs, but people in entertainment, people in positions of power that can be considered psychopaths. And Paddy said at the time he'd had a conversation with you around, I think, the post Hansie Cronje, and you had said and confirmed this for us. Obviously, Paddy wouldn't put it into the article if he hadn't confirmed it. That you said that Hansie Cronje was basically a psychopath. And then qualified that a psychopath isn't someone that runs around with a knife wanting to stick it in the back of your head.
Sure. Well, the psychopaths, you only recognize them if you're right close to them and if you're affected by them. So they are the most charming, wonderful people if you're one step away from them. And where they're not interested in you, they don't try to manipulate you. But if you're in line and you're in line with their ambitions, and you cross them, then they manipulate you, and it's really tough. And so the only people who ever recognize psychopaths are those who have been badly affected. And I obviously was very badly affected by South African cricket in the 1990s. Myself and Bob Wilmer were sidelined. And I think I know the reasons, and it's history now, and I don't want to go back there. But I, made the point that Hansie wasn't quite what everyone thought he was, and because I've been there, I've been directly affected in a very, very negative way by him. And so I saw that, and I said that some things about him which perhaps I regret now, but the point was I did say things, and the players said, but Tim, but that's wrong. Hansie's the best cricket captain we've ever had in South Africa. He's the fantastic motivator. He's this amazing leader, and he's just been so fantastic for South African cricket. And Paddy was one of them. And Paddy, in fact, was even closer to Hansie because he had shared a room with Hansie on some of these cricket tours and had been with him for years. And only 10 years later, when he had worked with other athletes in other teams Paddy suddenly saw that these people were highly destructive and that they destroyed the team. And he was working with one particular team, not in South Africa. And he said what he couldn't understand was he's spending 90% of his time was trying to offset the damage that this person was doing, who was the captain of the team. And then he suddenly dropped that this guy was a psychopath. And then he went and read widely on it, and he read Robert Hare's books. And the one book is called Snakes in Suits. And if you really want to understand psychopaths, you need to read that book, because it's really chilling how these people just destroy everyone, and they don't care. They've got no remorse and no conscience, and they in fact take pleasure in destroying other people's lives.
So
then he put two and two together, and then he said, okay, he now recognized that
Yeah.
that there were many great athletes who were probably psychopathic.
Yeah. Does it basically come down to as simplistically as it sounds, to someone who gets into a position of power, privilege, and basically the people closest to him, if they threaten that position, they will see that. Is psychopathy a word, by the way? I've been using it today. Is that a word?
No,
Okay,
it
thank
is
you.
absolutely a word.
I'm
yeah.
relieved.
Yeah.
They will see that psychopathy come out then.
Exactly right. Now, in fact, Paddy spoke mainly about Lance Armstrong, and if you read the books about Lance Armstrong, the key is how they manage other people who are very close to them, like their wives or girlfriends, and also the guys who've done all the hard work for them. In Armstrong's case, it was some of the guys who'd cycled with him. And the one guy who crossed Armstrong because he saw that Armstrong had some anabolic steroids in his house, this guy eventually had to go to New Zealand, as far away from Austin, Texas, as he possibly could get on the globe, to get away from the influence of Armstrong, who was destroying his life.
Mm.
And when you see that pattern, then you understand that this guy they're not normal.
Yeah.
In other words, there's a great statement, they love without measure those whom they'll soon hate without reason. And that's the key. They act as if you are their greatest, closest friend. And then suddenly, if you start to question them and expose them, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
They will do everything they possibly can to undermine you in the future.
Now, obviously, I mean, we don't know what's happening in the case, because, as I say, we don't know what's but, you know, Paddy's obviously brought this article out in terms of the Oscar Pistorius trial. So, I mean, can we read anything into that yet, or do we have to wait and see? I mean, do we know or don't we know?
Yeah, I wouldn't, I think it's very, very early days to start pegging that label on Oscar. We'd have to see. Yeah, I'm not even venturing down that route, because what happened when I said things about Hansi, it made my life very uncomfortable for many years, and many people never forgave me. And so I realized that there are many people who will think that Oscar is the most wonderful person, and he may well be, and as they felt about Hansi, so I'm not going down that route. I think the point is that, I will tell you how you can find out. All you have to do is go and look back in their past, because they will have the trait. The trait will be present. And the person who's a psychopath doesn't suddenly become a psychopath at the age of 25 or 30. They show patterns right through their life. And if you go back, there will be bullying in the past. There will be other things that they did which were antisocial. There'll be antisocial behavior in the past. And it may have got covered up, and that's the problem if you're an elite athlete and a national icon. People cover up for you.
Yeah.
And so what should be exposed isn't exposed.
Yeah.
And that's how they get away with it. And they're very, very good at manipulating the people around them to think that they are the most wonderful people, as I've indicated.
Would this...
And it's only when they get to the top that then they've got complete free rein to do what they like, and then they go mad, and then they destroy many lives.
So would this be an avenue, we're talking about the psychopath aspect, that the state would either be looking into, or would be in their interest, if they want to prove their case, that they would look into, and would that have any weight in the case itself then? I mean, is it something you can prove?
No, I doubt it has. Again, I'm not a legal person, but I wouldn't have thought it had any bearing at all.
Yeah.
because you have to look at the facts and see whether a murder was committed in cold blood and so on.
Yeah.
And whether the person's a psychopath or not really doesn't make any difference to that diagnosis. Sorry, put it this way. I believe only a psychopath would murder in cold blood. But the fact that a person is a psychopath does not make them a murderer. That's the difference.
It might be more pertinent in a bail hearing, though, because if the argument is about whether he should be released out, particularly under the pressure that he would be under now, or keep him in, that would be more pertinent than in something like a bail hearing, where the state would then want to bring out this thing to say, look, there's the history of this person going back, these are the facts, these are the things that were reported, therefore it is not in the public interest to release him on bail. So it would be more pertinent from a bail point of view probably than from a trial point of view, although it probably would come up in a trial as well afterwards.
Yeah. I'm not going to answer that question directly, but what I would say is that Robert Hare, the man who first described how you diagnose psychopathy, he says, you cannot just observe and make a diagnosis like we are doing. You really have to test these people. And there's a 40-question questionnaire. There's a 40-question questionnaire that he developed. And if you score above a certain point, a certain number, then you are psychopathic. And, of course, it's not yes or no. There are degrees.
Yeah.
And so a person like that would be able to detect whether there was psychopathy or not.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that one could really make a proper diagnosis.
Very, very interesting, as always, chatting to you, Prof. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. We are going to have a chat to Paddy, obviously more related to his article that he wrote over the last 24 hours or so, and sort of build on that. But basically, obviously, and that's why we said let's have a chat to you, because he did mention that he had the conversation with you at that time, and only later on did he look back and say, okay, I know what Prof Tim Noakes was now referring to. So so it's great that we've got that kind of background now. We'll have a chat to Paddy sometime in the next 20 minutes. Thanks a lot for your time this afternoon. All the best.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks so much. Thanks
so much.
Bye.
Cheers, Barton.
Bye.
You see that
Tim Noakes joining us on the phone today.
This is Balls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate, and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Balls.co.za.